Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Middle Ground. I've got a great guest here that I've gotten to know a little bit over the last month. She was gracious enough to invite me to some places. Her name is Marcy Griswack. She's running for state senate here in Michigan. Marcy, I appreciate you coming on the show. Introduce yourself to everybody a little bit about who you are.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. This is my first podcast
Thank you.
experience ever in my whole life, so I'm very excited to
Awesome.
be here. And more importantly, to keep it local and to talk to someone who's here in district, which is amazing. So, yes, my name is Marcy Griswack. I am a mother of three. I have an older child who is a sophomore in college right now, going to school for engineering, not sure what kind, but some sort of engineering. And then I have two children at home. I homeschool my middle child and then my youngest child. She made the decision after being homeschooled. She didn't like that. So she said she's gonna go to public school. So she goes to Carlson. So I have three kids. I am married. I've been married for 8 years now, excuse me, to a union carpenter. He's been in the carpentry business for over 20 years doing commercial carpentry.
Oh, man.
And I just recently decided to run for office in the city of Rockwood, which is where I live. And so now I serve as the mayor pro tem here in Rockwood. So those is a little bit more about me in my working life, what I do for a living. I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for 13 years, worked in the hospital for a little over 15, put myself through college by being what they call there's a couple different words for it, a CNA, a PCT, basically a nurse aide. I did that for several years while I was putting myself through college. And so I do that full time. Yeah.
Whew, you got a better stomach than me because I can't handle that type of stuff at all. Like, that's not my forte. I'm a number cruncher and an analyst. You ask me about that all day long. You ask
Well,
me about a hospital, way.
wasn't actually sure how I was going to handle it either. I hadn't really had any exposure to what a nurse was or does or did, or how many different areas a nurse can cover. There's so many different aspects of nursing, but I had no idea actually any of it. Didn't even know what kind of nurse I wanted to be when I went into nursing school. I just thought, I think this is what I want to do. And throughout the 4 years I was in school, I learned what I didn't want to do. And that was kind of how I narrowed it down. I was like, no, I don't like that. That's not me. And then I found my way into the ICU where I'm in love. I'm in love with ICU nursing. Yeah.
No, you got to love what you do.
Yeah.
That's something that it changes for everybody. We were talking a little bit before the show about state government, right? And
Yes. Yeah.
how a lot of people, how a lot of people don't understand it. That was a little surprising for me. Closed off sometimes with certain things, and that was
Yeah.
very shocking to me because you would think you'd want to know what's going on out in your front yard. Not that I'm knocking anybody who doesn't,
Yeah.
but you would think that would just be a little bit more obvious. Apparently, it's not. Tell everybody a little bit about that.
Well, to what you just said, I think people are connected and they are concerned about things that are going on around them, whether it's in their community or statewide. They just don't know who to contact or who's responsible for what. Even myself, I've been guilty of that where I'm like, well, I don't know who handles that. Is that the county? Is that the city? And so I can share in frustrations with people because there are definitely some blurred lines there as far as who do I contact and when and about what specifically. But yes, so we were talking about before the show, I have been going door to door as part of my campaign, talking to people and trying to understand better what are people's main concerns? What are their hot topic items? And one lady just flat out said to me, what is a senator? What are you actually responsible for? And yeah, and like I mentioned to you earlier, I applaud her courageousness to say that because I think that more people have that same question or same concern than they admit.
Yeah, and that part is just very shocking. I mean,
Really?
it's very surprising. I guess no and yes. I mean,
Okay.
it just seems because a lot of people vote for governor, right? You think it would
Yes.
be like, hey, why aren't my roads fixed and things of that nature? So I guess, but I'm also somebody who asks, I'm very curious, right? I always tell people, hey, just ask questions. The worst thing someone's going to do is tell you no, get lost,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
just ignore you.
Get lost. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Right. So that's where I go after it.
even in my role as a councilwoman, it's been such a huge learning curve for me because I didn't completely understand the funding of the roads, how they're funded, who funds what and
Right.
when, how often can it be funded. So I don't think that it's crazy to say that that it's wrong for people to not understand who they should talk to and when, which is But we need to, as leaders, as servant leaders, we need to better educate the people that we serve to say, hey, this is who you should contact and when. And I think that like even just having a quick reference like fact sheet just passing out to people would be incredibly helpful. So say
No doubt.
again, if you live in an HOA, who takes care of the road in front of your house? Who takes care of the drain when you're in Sumter Township and your entire yard is flooding? Is that the senator? Is that the county? Is that your governor? So I think that's important that we educate people, especially when we're going door to door. We have that opportunity to do that.
Yeah, and I mean that's just I mean it's key, especially the door to door. I mean, grassroots is where a lot of things are always we find out a lot about what's really going on in perspective. Well,
Yes, yes.
from what you've learned, what are some of the biggest things that you're seeing from voters that they're like, "Hey, I feel like I'm being ignored no matter who it is," or what are some of those key things that you're seeing out there?
So that is such a good question because it's not a one size fits all. So the needs and the concerns of people that say that live in Grove Zeal are completely
Mhm.
different than the needs and concerns of people that say live in Van Buren. And so you genuinely have such a swing of, I guess, conversations that you're having with people. And so it's been such a learning curve for me too to say that they're not concerned about property taxes over here. As you would think that would be a main concern for most people are property taxes. They have a higher priority, whether it be data centers in their backyard, whether it be the cost of food. There's really such a swing of needs and issues and desires. I haven't heard anyone say, to your point, that they don't feel like they're being heard. So I want to give props to local government, to their council members or their board of trustees, because that's really where the conversations start, right? Well, I'm not being heard. My neighbor is fertilizing my yard or their trees hanging over my yard and I don't like that. Who takes care of that? Is that me as a senator or is that your council member who can take care of that? So, yeah.
Right. No, and
Yeah.
that's I'm glad to hear that, and it's a lot because a lot of I think maybe that might be more at the federal level where people don't feel heard.
Yes.
Local since, obviously you're mayor pro tem, like, local government versus Lansing, from what you're learning and what you've learned in South Rockwood, like, what seems to be, like, the biggest hurdles that people may not understand that your views and approach can really help change?
What do you mean as in Lansing?
Yeah, so, like, how, okay, hey, Lansing is not performing certain tasks the way that would help our local governments out to be more effective.
Yeah. So, well, number one, it's keeping and maintaining local control. And I appreciate the perspective that I can bring to the table where I am in local government. So I understand the relationship, first of all, that needs to be built with your senator or with your House rep when you're at the local level. Otherwise, you're going to be completely ignored, right? If you have issues and you don't have a relationship with the people who are supposed to be serving you, then forget about it, right? Forget about an ask, forget about education, forget about having a relationship, inviting that senator into your city to talk to the people. That's just not going to happen. But we also understand when decisions are made, how they directly impact us at the local level. And so the key really, even though we're in Lansing, is that no one knows the situation or the issues that are facing local people better than the local people. That's why there has to be that relationship there. But I come with that understanding that, hey, listen, it's local or bust, right? So,
No, and I mean, that's very key because a lot of, like you were saying earlier, a lot of people don't understand like what different roles there are for certain things,
yeah,
and especially with the roads, because here in Michigan, the roads are like the number one thing what do they call, what do we always call it? Construction season, right? It's
yeah.
already happening. It's already out there.
It's
You know,
it's
they,
always it's always construction season. There's never a time where there's not an orange barrel out. While I can appreciate that, it gets frustrating, right? It's like, when are these roads going to be fixed? Are they going to be fixed?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, it was and obviously, I'm happy that they addressed Gibraltar Road a little bit down here in Flat Rock because I mean,
Yes.
it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
awful,
Yeah.
but I was really bummed out that they did it with asphalt and not concrete because now there's already a small spot in it that's already missing a piece of asphalt, and I'm like, "Oh, man." So
So
now the potholes are already forming.
So I actually toured the city of Romulus with the mayor recently, and he explained something to me and he gave me a different perspective. Obviously, asphalt is not a long term solution, right? It's a short term solution
Mhm.
and it's much more inexpensive than concrete. So he was saying that he said, "You're going to see a lot of asphalt patches as we go through the city. We want our residents to know that we are addressing the situation, that we hear you, that there's a pothole over here and this and that, but we don't have the funding to complete this road right now. We just don't have it, but we hear you and we want
Right.
you to know that we're listening. So in the meantime, this is what we're going to do for you." So I wonder if this is just in the meantime. Hopefully it is, right? It's never a long-term
Right.
solution to patch something. But again, it takes $1 million a mile or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Wow.
that's the statistic that I heard recently. I'm like, that is alarming. $1 million a mile. Yeah.
Man, I wish I was getting paid that kind of money. But wow, that's a lot of money. That's crazy. I
That's what
mean,
it takes.
they're
That's
put
what it takes per mile is to complete that whole project. It's about $1 million.
wow.
And my small city of Rockwood, we cannot afford that. That's not something that we
No.
have built into our budget. It's astronomical. Yeah.
Yeah, state and local governments aren't allowed to run a deficit like the federal government is.
That's
They can't
right.
sit there
That's
and
right.
go, "Hey, I'm gonna run a $50 billion debt, and hopefully we'll get around to paying it someday."
Yeah, we'll work it out sometime. Yeah. I'm glad we're not. I'm glad that we don't have the availability or the option to be irresponsible with our funds. I'm thankful for that. Yeah. And
Oh
I'd
yeah,
like to see that at the federal level too, but I don't have any say in that at this moment.
it would be nice, and I think we'd be better off for it. But hey, that's a whole that's a whole
That
different
is a
ball
whole nother
game.
topic. Yeah, yeah.
What is one of the key issues for you that people may not know about you that is important to your constituents that you think is very important? Like I'd say, like probably one of your key tenants that really gets you going.
Wow, that is a
I,
really good question. I will just give you a little bit of history about my tenure on council. It doesn't necessarily directly reflect my campaign right now, but one of the issues that I had when I ran for council was the lack of transparency and accountability. It frustrated me. It frustrates me right now. I might get my blood pressure up, but I'm like, these people who are set to serve us are not serving us in a way that they're not even reporting back to what's going on, what they're doing, what they're planning on
yes,
doing, what has been done. There's no accountability there, but accountability goes with transparency. They're brother and sister, right? So I said when I ran my campaign, that was the first thing that I was going to work on. Like when something's going on, the residents have a right to know whether or not you want to inform us or whether or not we want to look into it and be engaged is another story. You still have a responsibility as an elected official to inform us of what's going on. So this wasn't happening in my city. It's getting better, but there's a lot of room for improvement. And so that was one of the things that I wanted to work on as a councilwoman is saying, whether or not you want to look it up on the internet or scroll Facebook to see what's going on or go up to City Hall to see what's happening, the information should be provided to you. That is like a
yes,
number one thing. And so for me in running this campaign, I feel the same way. Although that's just a small portion of who I am, I feel like I serve you. I am here for you. So that means what I'm doing, you should know what I'm doing. You should know what I'm not doing. You should have the ability to contact me, and I should be and want to be and expect to be held accountable. And that requires showing up, right? That requires for me as a councilwoman today I have office hours, right? That means I am here for you to hold me accountable. And I expect and understand that's part of this. So if I'm not available to you in person, on the phone, via email, then what am I doing? What is the purpose of having a public servant if I'm not holding myself to the standard of being held accountable and then also offering transparency? So I went off on a tangent on all that, but
no, that's perfect.
I say all that to say one of the again, actually, the main thing I ran on in Rockwood was transparency and accountability. And so, my entire 3 years that I've served, that is what I have been doing. Been a strong advocate for making sure everything is transparent. I asked the city council to record all of our meetings so that our residents whom voted us into office could see what we were doing. That was voted down. We have the ability and the technology to do that, and it was voted down. The other thing that was voted down is I said, hey, listen, I want every single person in the city of Rockwood to have access to the documents that I have. These are the documents that help me make a decision and help me vote on certain projects or whatever's happening in the city. There's a packet that is given to us, and then we base our decisions based on this packet. Sometimes it's 20 pages, sometimes it's 400 pages, although there hasn't been one like that. But in other cities, they are very they're packets, right? And I said, you know
Right.
what, the residents should have this. They deserve it. They should have this, and then it helps them understand better how I'm voting on things or why I voted on something, because they don't have access to this. Now they could have access to it. I want to clarify, if they go up to City Hall, if they make a written request and pay for the associated fees that are sometimes associated with a FOIA request, and then wait 10 days to get that packet. By the decision has already been made. Okay. So they can't come into a council meeting and say, hey, what's this item A that you're voting on? So anyways, I brought this to council and I said, listen, let's give the residents access to this. They can then hold us accountable. Then we're also being transparent and we're building trust with the people that we serve. And they
Right.
wouldn't even entertain a vote on that. They wouldn't, there was no second motion for that. I don't know if you saw that on Facebook, but
Wow. No,
so
I seen the transparency part, but I didn't see that. Wow.
yeah, there's been a multitude of things that I brought forth that just have not made it. So this is a one thing that I'm passionate about, is transparency and accountability, and that comes with, that's who I am. So that comes with me when should I be voted into Lansing? That comes with me. That's a part of who I am, and I want to be on the oversight board. That was one question I was asked: is what committee are you going to serve on? What do you want to do in Lansing outside of some of the policies you might want to write? Like, we serve on committees. That's what we do. And I said oversight. I have a huge passion for oversight. And so I'm getting excited talking about it. But I'm like, this is something that I really am passionate about. But yeah, so that's one thing I think people should know about me, is that this is important to me, that you hold me accountable.
And that's very key because I can't remember when I seen it, but Michigan's one of the lower ranked states in terms of that state government about transparency.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of polls and data about sometimes we're not the most transparent government. Like we're on the bottom half of the country in terms of that. And I know that's a concern of a lot of voters here.
And you know what? Actually, we're in the bottom half of a lot of things. So
Yes.
that doesn't shock me. It's sad though, but until something's done about it, I mean, we're obviously, it's not going to trend upward until there's a change in mindset and a change in thinking and a change in leadership, where we say we want leaders, servant leaders, first of all, that put us first, that give us the ability to be alongside of them when they take a vote. We understand what they're voting on. And if we don't, they'll help us through that, right? They'll help us. Here's the resources that you need to understand this vote. I'm going to explain it to you. I'm going to talk to people about the vote before I vote on it. Like we talked about earlier before the show,
Right.
is that this is a bottom up type of leadership, where we say, hey, listen, I'm not bringing my party to Lansing. I'm bringing you to Lansing. I'm bringing those people
Yes.
that I've served to Lansing. How do I do that? I go and I talk to them directly and I say, what are your biggest concerns? What are you most passionate about? What do you want to see change? What's bothering you right now? So I can't vote on, I vote, we call it, we vote our district, right? We don't vote our party line. We vote our district. And tying back into the people in Groseal versus the people in Van Buren, they're two totally different worlds as far as what matters most to them right now.
I mean, I can only imagine the property tax part. Woof. My property taxes keep going up every single year. I swear. And
Hey,
how they
listen,
value your home is insane.
I live in this world too. My property taxes are going up, up, up. My water bill is going up, up, up. And
Yes.
in the city of Rockwood, specifically, we have the ability, we own and operate our own wastewater treatment plant. That's a lot of people don't know that about the city of Rockwood. So we have the authority to regulate rates, water and sewer rates. And so they're astronomical, in my opinion, in the city. A lot of that does have to do with the rate we're being charged from GLEWA specifically, but we also have the authority to press pause, or we have the authority to problem solve in a different way for these rates. And so I was the only council member that voted against raising water and sewer rates this year, because I said raising the water and sewer rates and putting that on our residents who are already struggling to survive right now or struggling to pay their bills should be a last resort, not a first resort. That's not the first thing that we
Right.
do. Have we exhausted all of our resources and options and did we have a workshop? Let's talk this through. This should be the last thing we do to our people, not the first thing. So yeah, this is frustrating.
And I think that's very key to people know, especially with the electric rates in Michigan and the data centers here locally. I believe
Oof.
Gibraltar put a moratorium on it for a year.
Yes, yes, they did. And again, I can't speak for them, but I was there at that meeting and I was involved. And the thought is, in really any moratorium, is to just press the pause button to say, wait a minute, give the local people here an opportunity to think about it, to talk it through, to problem
Yes.
solve, and see if this works specifically for our community. And so I'm thankful to the city of Gibraltar for doing that. And I think the residents are too. They're thankful that the government said, we're not going to make a decision right now. We don't have enough information to make a decision.
Right. And that's a lot of people didn't realize, I should say, until the last 6 months or so, that a lot of times when these data centers go into areas that their electric rates were going up. And
Yeah.
this was part of what was fueling it. And a candidate, Tom Leonard, who just dropped out of the governor's race recently,
Yeah, I heard
does one
that.
of the big things that he talked about was the commission in Michigan that approves the rate hikes. And he's going, they keep approving.
Yeah.
We're all struggling here. And he made a big point of that. And I was like, man, finally somebody's just coming out and saying it.
Yeah.
And he was a real big proponent of putting a pause on it for a year. And I really like that. So I guess that part was a little bit of a bummer to see. Now you don't got that voice pushing it in the election as much. But I think that was very key because I swear to God, like a year ago, my electric bill was only like 250 electric gas, and now it's like 400. I'm like, man, I put a new furnace and AC unit in. It should be going the other way, not
Yeah.
this way. And
And we switched all of our bulbs to LED, right? That the
yes,
energy savers. So I was like, oh, this will be amazing. This will be a front end investment on the bulbs, but on the back side, the long term, we're going to see our rates drop. And then I also just recently learned, I guess it was not recent, more recently last year, that there's a peak time that DTE charges
mhm,
you double the rate.
I
I
think it's
can't
two to
remember.
seven,
Yeah, and so
2 to 7,
over
something
here
like
in
that.
the Griswack household, we're turning everything off from 2 to 7. We don't even do laundry. I have a note on my washer
Same here.
to this day that says, "Do not do laundry between 2 and 7 PM," because I'm gonna be charged double for that load of laundry. We'll pass. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and in the summertime, I tell my wife we watch TV and everything around that time in the basement where
Yeah.
you don't have to have the AC pushing as hard because
Yes.
it
Yeah.
keeps it nice and cool down there, and at
Yeah.
first she was like, "That just seems a little weird or overkill," and I'm like, "No, you can have that thermostat about 5, 6 degrees higher
Yeah.
because at night, it's not gonna feel as warm when
Yeah.
the sun's not beating on the house," and she was like, "Okay," and then she was like, "Oh, man, that's a great idea," and I'm like, "Yeah," we had bought some of those, we even call 'em like reflectors on your windows. It's like transparent, but it reflects the sunlight away, and that
Yeah.
helped too, and I was like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, I put that on my studio has a window, I put that on there too, and, yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
man, it makes because the DTE bill, and I think what is it this month? They're going to be voting on another rate hike or something of that nature, and
It's
it's
just out. It's
insane to me.
just it's insane. It's wild. That's the word I use for it. Is it's wild and crazy that as you and I sit here right now, we're talking about how to be more efficient with our energy. Yes, okay, but also the fact that we have to pause our lives between 2 and 7 p.m. because we're going to be charged double for what we do, and between 2 and 7 is when people are home, right? So that's the time that people are having dinner. That's the time that our kids are doing our homework. It's backward to me. I don't it's just outrageous. It's absolutely outrageous. And like you said,
No, it is.
this month the rates are going up, right? So how that correlates directly with the data centers, it's unknown right now. But
No, that God, the electric thing, if they could fix that problem, and see, that would just solve. If you want to talk about a tax cut, that would be a tax cut if there ever even wasn't one on
yeah,
the daily household budget. Those things are just it's insane, and it just seems like even with a lot of things have been done to try to bring down inflation. It just keeps going up and up and up. And you're like going, man, where does that pause
where's it
button
gonna
hit?
end? Where does it
Y-
end? But then it's not translating into the real world where wages are not going up, right? So
Yeah,
wages
no,
are stagnant, and yet the cost of living is just skyrocketing. Families are hurting right now, and they're feeling it at the pump, feeling it at the grocery store, and they're feeling it when they're mailing in their DTE bill. And now someone just told me that now we're going to be charged a convenience fee to pay via credit card for DTE. I think I don't know if there is currently a fee, but they were telling me that the
wow.
fee is increasing. So now it's just nickel and diming everything.
They're supposed to be nonprofit.
Well, what do you think about that? You think they're nonprofit?
Oh, they just like a billion or two last year they made. And I'm like, why do you need to raise rates again if you cleared that much money?
Yeah. And one of the things that my campaign is focusing on was getting rid of the state property tax to help struggling families or to help all families in Michigan, right? So there's a 6 mil property tax that the state is directly looking at to say, hey, let's cut this. And depending on what your property value is, that could be a couple $1,000s back in your pocket. And so that's something that the state, as senators and House of Representatives, we have a direct impact on. And someone had said to me, how does that impact our police and fire? Again, that's local, right? So there's just this re-education that we're not trying to cut your safety, we're not trying to cut your fire, we're not trying to cut the schools. This is directly related to the 6 mil assessment for the state property taxes.
Can we
Yeah.
educate the voters better on these things? That is so key because that's like the biggest theme from what we both have discovered is the education of all this.
Yeah. So a couple of things when you say that. Number one, we were talking about earlier is that people don't want to listen to extremists, right? They're not willing to get
Mhm.
educated from extremists. So, like you said, when you come from a perspective of, I'm just here to educate, I'm not left, I'm not right. I just want to talk to you about what I'm noticing or what we're seeing is an issue, right? And that issue is education or re education or reminding people. For me, I haven't had a civics class in 20 years, right? So so some of us just need a refresher to say, oh, right, this is the branch that handles that, or this is who I talk to again about my drain out front, or what have you. We can't expect people to know and understand all of the different facets of how government works and who serves what and when and where. So how can we educate people? That is a really good question. I don't have an answer to that other than maybe at this moment, I don't have an answer to that other than what I'm doing, which we can't all do, is just going door to door and talking to people and saying, let's have a conversation. So maybe it starts with a conversation and then giving people the resources to say, hey, this is who you contact when and where. But people like you who are coming and saying, hey, you're seeing an issue and you're willing to problem solve on this issue about education. There are people who are out there that have podcasts and things like that are also wanting to educate people from a middle ground, right? Not from a left versus a right, but just from a pure education perspective where it's just facts, right? It's just fact based conversations.
Yeah, and that's key.
Yeah.
And that's what I really liked about it. I know your time's precious.
So is
Like
yours.
one,
So
yeah,
is yours.
I go all day long. I usually work a day job and then I get home, hang out with the family for an hour or two, maybe three, and then going on to the network till 10, 11 o'clock, sometimes 1 o'clock in the morning, just doing things and nonstop. One of my downsides as an individual is I'm overly analytical. I will
Yeah,
sit
that's not
there
a
and run.
downside.
It'll drive me nuts to a point where I'll run things through a million simulations, pick it apart, like, why is this? Why is this that? And then
Yeah.
my wife she'll come out, she'll be like, hey, don't you think you should get some sleep before tomorrow? And I'm like, I gotta figure this out. It's bugging me because if not, I'll just lay there in bed till 2 o'clock in the morning just thinking about it. And it's probably why I'm 41 and more gray hair than most people at 50.
Listen, I don't see that as a downside. I see that as a beautiful talent that you have that you're harnessing right now, right?
Yeah.
This is what you're doing. You're living your American dream and all of your analytics have got you to where you are this very second. So
No, I
you might
appreciate
think of
that.
it as a downfall, but there are people who don't analyze things just quite enough.
Yeah. And that's, yeah, definitely that is sometimes folks should. And
Yeah.
the problem with that is you only got one brain. And then my wife is a lot more the I won't say bubbly, but she's a lot more of she makes things a lot more presentable. She's the one who puts the bow and tie on everything. And I'm over here, not the grumpy guy, but I'm the guy that's going, okay, this, that. But she's like, hey, everything's gravy. And we defaulted to that traditional format or whatever if you want to call it, not even intentionally. It just kind of
Yeah.
happened.
Well, it sounds like you two are a good team. You're a good teamwork.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Without her, I praise my wife all the time. Without her, this doesn't happen because she handles a lot of stuff with the kids for little things while I do this. You know, she's
Yeah.
probably my biggest fan, my biggest advocate. I couldn't do it without her. She's enabled me to pursue my dreams and going. I can't thank her enough. Marcy, I really appreciate you taking the time today to
Hey,
be
thanks
with
for
us.
having me. Yes, it's my pleasure. Like I said, this is my first podcast, so I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for inviting me to talk to you.
Oh yeah, no problem. Everybody, Marcy's website, everything you need to know about her will be down in the description. So check her website out, get to know her a little bit more. Always look at your local leaders. Local politics and state politics, like I've said so many times in this show, matter way more to your daily life than what's going on in DC. DC is so disconnected from us on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Look to your local leaders for true problem solving with your day to day problems. Everybody, I thank you for tuning in. I hope everybody has a good day.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.